Namaste and hello, Rukus Avenue Radio listeners. This is your correspondent, Priyadarshini G. Roy. Please check out the acclaimed film Goldfish, out in theaters on September 1st. Visit outsiderpictures.us for more details. And stay tuned for an exclusive interview with the cast and crew coming up only on Rukus Avenue Radio.
Rukus Avenue Radio.
Hi, I'm Rajit Kapur, and you're listening to Rukus Avenue Radio.
Namaste and hello, Rukus Avenue Radio listeners. This is your correspondent, Priyadarshini G. Roy, here live via Zoom with the acclaimed actor Rajit Kapur. Rajit Ji, welcome to the show and namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.
He is joining us all the way from New Delhi, India, amidst the promotion for his upcoming film, Goldfish. So without further ado, I'm going to go into his wonderful bio. Albeit short, it does not depict all of his achievements and acclaims, which we will get into shortly. Rajit Kapur is a versatile Indian artist known for iconic theater, television, and cinema roles. His genuineness and unwavering commitment to shine are exemplified in projects like Bumkesh Bukshi, Uri the Surgical Strike, and Razi, amongst many others. Rajit Ji's influence extends to direction and production. With a lasting impact on Indian performing arts, he continues to inspire artists and audiences. He is here today to discuss his role in Goldfish, which premiered at the 75th Cannes Film Festival. Rajit Ji, welcome once again, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Going right into your background and your career, Rajit Ji, your journey in the entertainment industry has spanned across theater, television, and film. Could you share some insights into how these different mediums have shaped your artistic growth?
Well, it all started with the theater, and that is the foundation and the base. And I haven't really left my link with the theater in spite of television, film, and OTT that has now taken over. Theater is still very part of my bloodstream, and that keeps you grounded and it keeps you on your toes. It's still helps me to stretch myself as an actor. So the whole process of being part of the theater world, it allows you to be more sensitive. It allows you to share. It allows you to let go of your ego because you're working together through the process of rehearsal. And therefore, I feel that discipline is what keeps you grounded. And that's what it's done for me.
That's wonderful. We always hear that the foundation for any type of acting, it always resonates back to theater performance and that discipline that you were speaking of. So now reflecting on your journey so far, are there any moments or projects you consider particularly transformative or pivotal in shaping your approach to acting and storytelling?
One significant project, the making of the Mahatma, because playing Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, or Gandhiji as we all know him, was definitely a huge step forward for me in my career. For 2-3 reasons. One, we were working in another country in South Africa. It wasn't shot or made in India. The second, playing such an iconic leader of the country, even though it refers to the 20 years he spent in South Africa, was a huge responsibility. But I had the support and the trust of my director, Mr. Shyam Benegal. And then the fact that it fetched me a national award made it even more significant for me. And then over the years, I would say Deepti Naval's directorial debut in Do Paise Ki Dhoop Char Aane Ki Barish was something again that came way ahead of its time. It was made in 2008, although it took her 10 years to manage to get a platform like Netflix on which it is still streaming and still getting such a good response to. Another landmark project in terms of film for me was Threshold, directed by the same director as Goldfish, Pushan Kriplani, and working with Neena Gupta after 25 years. I did my first feature film, Suraj Ka Satwa Ghoda, with her. So connecting with such an exemplary performer after 25 years, and the entire approach, because we did about 2 months of prep work on the film and then shot the whole thing in 9 days. So that has its own significance, I would say. And then coming to the stage, I think the the most important project, if I had to name one, then it would be Love Letters, because that's something that myself and my colleague Shanaz Patel have been doing for the last 32 years. And it deals with the life of two individuals from the age of 8 to about 58. So a lifetime in 2 hours.
It shows a whole transformative journey and the different identities that we take on throughout that journey. Similarly, moving on into certain themes that are also prevalent in the film Goldfish. It features a unique narrative centered around the relationship between a mother and daughter as they navigate the changes and challenges of dementia. What aspect of this storyline resonated with you and drew you to this project?
Well, actually, when Pushan was writing the film, he already had me in mind. So when he was in the process of figuring it all out, he said, look, your role is fixed. I've already decided you're playing it. So that was it. And the two women who were actually the lead roles or the protagonists, so to say, Kalki and Deepti, came on much later. But so I was in the loop with as far as the project was concerned. We had to change the schedule of the film twice. It was shot in London because of the pandemic. But even then, when we shot it in that month of July, we were still in the middle of the pandemic. So all of us, 3 of us who went, 5 of us rather, who went from India, were quarantined I was for 11 days. And after that, I worked for 8 days and then had to come back. So it was quite an experience, really.
To shoot a film during the pandemic, literally in the pandemic.
Literally. We had literally this little street in London, not really cordoned off, but that became home, for at least for those 10 days for me, after having been perched up in a hotel room for 11 days. So it had its own significance because there was an apprehension, a fear, with the coronavirus kind of around. At the same time, it was such a home-like atmosphere. The unit was small, like a family. So everybody was trying to be on their best to get the best out of each other, after all the fears of living apart or in isolation. And it kind of worked.
Right. It goes
and
to
I
the
think
premise
the
of the film.
Sorry, I was saying the trust factor work, I'd never worked with Kalki, and I knew Deepti for the last 15, 16 years. But then I know the director since he was about 15. So as I said, it just, sometimes things just have a way of happening.
That's beautiful. I like that premise played into a key part of the real life and the real screen life that we saw. So your involvement in Goldfish has garnered plenty of attention, especially due to its exploration of sensitive themes like identity and dementia, like we mentioned. But considering the complexity of the subject matter, how did you prepare for your role in this film?
Honestly, most of the preparation was really done by Pushan, who was a co-writer and the director. I mean, there was a complete clarity of what he had in mind and what he wanted me to do. So the character that I play in Goldfish, as I can term him as a silent lover. I can term him as catharsis in this relationship of a mother and daughter. He's like the healing factor. He's also symbolic with compassion, considering the volatile relationship between mother and daughter and Goldfish.
I love that. And going into the compassionate aspect, in Goldfish, the portrayal of dementia requires a delicate balance of authenticity and empathy. How did you balance delivering, an emotional, impactful performance, but staying true to the story's overarching narrative? You just mentioned the stories of a mother and daughter and their own internal and external struggles. So coming from that compassionate scope of your character, how did you balance out your relationship and your equation with those characters?
I think the answer lies in the question itself, that, for us to be aware and sensitive to those that are around us, and particularly in the case of dementia, it's something that I realized during filming, and it's strange, but after that, it helped me deal with my father, who went through dementia before he passed away.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
But it was good in a way, because I was able to deal with it with compassion. And I have to thank Goldfish for that, because we don't talk about things. And, mental health has become a huge issue today with the kind of stress that we are dealing with across the globe, that we need to be aware and sensitize ourselves towards it,
Like that's the beauty of the acting profession, is that we get to live vicariously through these characters, but also helps us relieve our own internal struggles and battles that we may not always vocalize, but are able to do so through our characters.
That's
and right. And so when you mentioned working alongside talents like Kalki and Deepti, what was your experience in collaborating with them to bring depth to their characters and their own emotional journey?
Well, I think with Deepti, there's already a comfort level and trust because we know each other, and I was playing the lead in her first directorial venture. So there was an understanding, and you just pick up the threads from where you left off. Because I remember when we last, just 2 weeks before filming, we didn't have a lead actress, and I was filming in Turkey, and Bhushan, the director, was tearing his hair, and he says, "We don't have a mother suddenly." And I called Deepti. Suddenly we thought of her, and I said, I think maybe this role is just meant to be for you. So give it a thought. I'm going to put you in touch with the director and the producer, and I think it'll happen. And within 2 days, it all kind of worked out. I have been seeing Kalki's work. I've never worked with her, but we never had to explain anything to each other. There was an inbuilt trust. I've never met her other than socially, but yes, having watched her work, I think we just connected from the word go.
That's beautiful. What more can you ask for in a pandemic set about the pandemic?
Absolutely. So, when things have a way of working out, the jigsaw puzzle just seems to fit. It was meant to be that way.
Right. I mean, imagine if the opposite were true. I mean, what kind of a scary situation that would have been. To be quarantined.
And then we had a host of characters who were from London, who sort of became part of the scenario, the neighbors and all. And,
right.
We just kind of hit it off. It was like one happy family working together, and, let's do this,
That's wonderful. Everything came together for the purpose of this film, which seems to be much more larger than life as it applies to the stress that you talked about that we all face today on a global scale. Now, speaking specifically about our identities as Indians, while we are world citizens and well-traveled, our society is very traditional in the sense that we have multi-generational households, which has now become more of the norm in Western societies post the pandemic. But for us, it's always been a common situation. Families can especially feel the effects of dementia or any other mental health illnesses when you live in a multi-generational household. And because Goldfish explores those intricacies in family relationships, how does Goldfish portray these challenges, and what messages does it send to families grappling with similar situations?
I'm not sure whether there's any direct message, because it's really dealing with very fragile, volatile, semi-broken relationship between a mother and daughter. But through the process of the film, it makes us aware of the awareness of mental health and dementia, and how we need to be compassionate and sensitive towards mental health, which is, striking the world to such a large extent today. And through those other relationships of the neighbors around, it's just let's say, particularly if I refer to it from India, the taboo that we have in not talking about it, not sharing our views about it, not opening up to our close ones about it. It reminds me literally of the time I sat down in front of my father and explained to him that, you keep saying you don't know what's happening to you. It's something called dementia, which has seeped through. So understand, you're not able to explain yourself or control yourself or your emotions. This is what is happening. So the psychiatrist is going to come and talk to you. So be open about it. Don't hold back. But I think I was able to do that maybe because the film itself had opened up this whole discussion about mental health,
I think you stated it beautifully, and it reminds me of that scene where Kalki asks Deepti ji, "Do you know who I am?" And she said, "No." And you have a split second, but then she says, "But this is enough." So it shows that warmth, that awareness of, I understand that there's something missing here, but I also acknowledge that this is important to me and this relationship is significant. And I feel like from our Indian society, Hindi mein hum pagal use karte hain, right? It's indirectly the wrong term.
We say, oh, it's off as rocker.
Right.
She's gone
It
insane.
translates to an illness, something that is taboo. वो लैंग्वेज बैरियर है हमारे बीच में, और वो टर्म जो पागल है वो उसको हम ट्रांसलेट कर रहे हैं कि नहीं, दिस इज अ हेल्थ इशू, जस्ट लाइक somebody can have diabetes, somebody can have blood pressure. This is also something that anybody can have.
Dementia, Alzheimer's, schizophrenia, bipolar, these are all things we are grappling with today, which we don't want to talk about. No, don't tell anybody. It's like that.
Absolutely. And I think that specific scene resonated with me because it acknowledges not only their relationship, but their willingness to work on it. And I think that is the generational gap that the film kind of insinuates subliminally without being a message in front of your face, but it kind of acknowledges those sensitive relationships. Now, moving on, as we talk about India has a diverse cultural landscape, how do you see Goldfish bridging the gap between the urban and the rural perspectives on dementia? We talk about mental health awareness, and sometimes that translates into a more urban kind of a discussion. How does that bridge that gap in these other sectors?
I am not so sure how the gap will be bridged because, the film is more going to be screened and shown in urban centers. Of course, this exists, in rural areas, but as you rightly put it, in rural areas, they would just term it as insanity or just ignore it. Oh, this is how the person is. Because in urban centers, we started kind of discussing it, accepting it. So one has now, maybe with the help of this film, such issues will be more talked about. That's what I feel.
I love that. I feel like it opens a door for discussion. It doesn't just say that here is a one-track solution, because life is never that way. There's multiple ways of getting to a certain place. And I love that it's a conversation starter.
Absolutely.
Yes,
it's a conversation that could lead to more awareness, more sensitivity, and more acceptance.
I love that. Now, shifting gears a little bit, because you mentioned that the film is set in London and you had also the British cast and talent there with you on set. What advice did you give to aspiring actors striving to establish themselves in this changing entertainment industry?
Be as open as you can. Your mind should be like an obtuse angle or like a sponge or a sieve. You must be able to absorb, imbibe everything. And at the same time, what you feel, if something doesn't help you, then, just like the sponge or the sieve, just squeeze it out and keep what you want, what you need to use, what you feel you can use to help you understand so many characters in life itself.
I love that. A lot of our listeners are aspiring artists, and they look towards yourself and DPG and other great legends for inspiration. And finally, Rajitji, what message would you like to convey to the viewers anticipating the release of Goldfish and are eager to experience its narrative and its characters?
Come and see the film for what it is. It's, sometimes we feel, a serious subject is going to be dark and depressing and all. It's not a depressing film at all. It's a mirror. So be open and enjoy the film.
Love it. Thank you so much, Rajitji, for your time. We truly appreciate you joining us here today on Rukus Ave Radio, albeit via Zoom. And hopefully we can stay in touch and see the progress of Goldfish as well as your upcoming projects and have an in-person interview soon, wherever that be, whether that's Mumbai or in Los Angeles.
Ciao.
All right, Rukus Ave Radio listeners, this is Priyadarshini G. Roy, your radio correspondent, signing off with the acclaimed actor Rajit Kapur G for his upcoming film Goldfish. Please check it out and catch all the information in the description below. Take care.
Rukus Avenue Radio.